Very busy weather update. This is meteorologist Mark Molnar. Let's take a look at what we've got going on here in the Northeast. We've got a lot of things going on at the moment. We have a number of blizzard warnings here. You can see Long Island, New York City heading up to Boston. There are blizzard warnings and continuing into areas like Worcester and Hartford. These areas will see blizzard conditions, winds gusting upwards of 40, 50, 60 miles per hour, some gusts up to 70 miles per hour and 80 miles per hour near the coast. So we will continue to watch this. And further inland, that's where we have the winter storm warnings for most of New York State, northeast Pennsylvania, most of northern and central New Jersey, and heading up to Vermont and New Hampshire, particularly the White Mountains and all the state of Maine. So let's get right into the NAM model here. This is the NAM model. It's cut down a little bit on the insane snowfall accumulations, but most of the snow is still clustered around Boston and heading over to Worcester and extending towards the lower Hudson Valley of New York and heading on into extreme northern New Jersey here. And you can see this is the loop of the NAM, and it continues that very classic comma shaped here. Let's freeze frame the worst frame here, or the best frame, whichever one you are. If you like snow, this would be the best frame for you. Look at this pattern here, all this snow here in southeast New England and Long Island. Long Island through New England is really going to get hit hard, as well as parts around New York City. Further west, we'll still see banding of the snow, but it won't be as intense as the NAM indicated. So that's what we've got going here for the NAM. And we'll take a look at some of the other parameters, the wind and coastal flooding here. Let me step aside here. 40 to 50 mile per hour winds as far west as eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, extending on up into parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, northern Maine. 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts near New York City, heading up through Hartford and just west of Worcester and over towards northern parts of New Hampshire here and heading up into state of Maine. And here in the portions of Boston down through Providence, Rhode Island, heading on over towards Montauk Point in Long Island, most of Long Island for that matter, eastern Long Island particularly, and heading over towards Nantucket. This is where we'll get up to 80 mile per hour gusts with the storm as it continues to deepen very rapidly. So we're going to continue to watch this. Coastal flooding. Let's take a look at a more detailed map. Here along the New Jersey coast, we'll get upwards of possibly 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inch surge here, and extending over towards Long Island. This is where we start getting into some channeling of the water here. This is where we could, between Long Island and Connecticut and Rhode Island, we could start approaching some areas where it's funneled in here, 3 to 6 feet, and over towards Cape Cod here, possibly up to 3 to 6 feet of surge. So we're going to continue to watch that. Over towards Boston, 3 to 5 feet of surge possible, heading on up towards the coastline of New Hampshire. So this is also a killer. You don't want to be around this near the coastal areas when this happens. So we'll continue to watch the wind and the coastal surge. We get right into the potential vorticity of the storm. Potential vorticity showing this winding up very nicely, and the two areas, the Alberta Clipper and the coastal system, have pretty much completed their phasing, and this wraps it around and wraps it up and intensifies it rapidly off of the Cape Cod and New England coast. And let's get to some of the radars we have here out of New York City. I'm going to show you some of this banding going on here just off New York City. This is where we're getting into 2 to 4, maybe possibly 5 inches an hour in some of these bands. That's really amazing. But this is the radar out of New York City and Mount Holly, New Jersey here. So that's what we're looking at for radars. And of course, we're going to continue to watch the situation here at MeteoMark. We have snowfall totals. This is what everybody's been waiting for. I've tweaked the snowfall totals a little bit here. The back edge of the precipitation is pretty much pushed through most of western Pennsylvania, western New York. So here's the snowfall totals. Here, the Alberta Clipper is phasing with the coastal system, and this is where you've got snowfall totals. Now, I've cut back snowfall totals a little bit in the lower Hudson Valley, Catskills, and northern New Jersey, but 18 to 24 inches, that's still going to be a range that's very dangerous. And heading on over towards New England, this is where we get into Boston. areas around Boston or west of Boston, we could see a 40-inch somewhere in there between Boston and Worcester. Worcester, I'm thinking about 30 inches, probably 26 to 29, maybe 30 inches in Worcester. Heading on down to Hartford, this is where we get to 25 to 30 inches, maybe locally higher to 32. Long Island, 25 to 30 easily throughout much of Long Island. Ice slip heading on up towards, and just over towards New Hampshire, we don't want to leave you out. This is where some of the White Mountains in and around Concord, towards the coast, could get upwards of 25, 30 inches. Some locally higher amounts to 35. And then up into Maine. Maine will also see this storm, 20 inches, 25, especially down East Maine here. So that's what we're looking at for snowfall. Here's a sharp cutoff back here in Pennsylvania. We're still looking at 4 to 7, just around these counties northwest of Philadelphia here, 4 to 7. And then you get up towards Scranton and you're approaching the foot or more, 12 to 18 inches likely, and then extending up and towards the southern tier of New York, 7 to as much 7 inches in the valleys, about 11 inches on the hilltops. Still looking, but then you cut off towards Elmira here, and this is where you start getting down to the 4 to 6 inch rains in some of those valleys. So that's going to do it for this segment of MeteoMark. I'm meteorologist Mark Molnar. Like us on Facebook at MeteoMark. Here's our Facebook page. This is where we do our micro updates. Eventually we're going to migrate those to our main website as well. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. And here's a 4-day forecast for my hometown viewers from Binghamton to Elmira and the northern tier counties of Pennsylvania.